Logic, School of Management. It is simple logic.
Welcome to this edition of Logic School of Management presents Business Sense. Business Sense is business and the essence of it, coming to one word called Business Sense. It is an entrepreneurial conversation and happening during this COVID time. My guest this time is Mr. PRADEEP PALAZHI. Mr. PRADEEP PALAZHI actually wears multiple hats, travels a lot. If there is a person who should be given the maximum loyalty of travel across the globe, I think PRADEEP should easily qualify for one. 15 days in the United States of America and the other 15 days in India. And he has been going through that for more than a decade actually. Okay. And before that he was in the US. He did his engineering from Trichy Engineering College, Government Engineering College, Trichy. He has also have a MBA to his credit. He has moved into US as a part of the California software company, their endeavor. And thereafter, once that assignment was over, then he moved into on his own. He created his own ecosystem around himself and then went into taking over, buying over companies that has not been doing well or that has been just doing okay, adding a lot of value into the company, including better solutions that is prepared in this part of the world, integrating them, and then at the right opportunity, if there are bidders for the company, they come and buy over the companies from them, and they have successfully done it not once, twice, or thrice. It's more than that actually. The latest in this endeavor is a company called Loyal Healthcare, which is in the area of patient engagement and payment solution, and that was bought over by America's leading company in that segment called RevSpring. So that was another feather to his credit. And there are more in the anvil. So that is a way. Speaking of him, I have some personal connection with him. My former company, Team Frontline Limited, he had been my 50% partner of the company. Okay, as also he has been very meticulously planning all his businesses in such a manner that he just gives very minimal or minimum opportunity for any mess up to happen. Another thing I am impressed by the way he handled his team is that his teams are located all over the world. The implementation happens in the United States of America. The development happens in Cochin. The project manager sits in for all Vizag, and the team members sit all over Chennai and Gurgaon, etc. And then he handles them so beautifully. And there isn't a way that he had missed the managing them. So that is the way it has gone. Very meticulous person in his planning. Very meticulous person in his activities. So it has been an immense pleasure of having you, Pradeep, in this show, Business Sense. And of course, I am SR NAIR-Mentor Guru. Pradeep, we'll start with the questions. Okay. Many people actually in the past, if you look at it in the late 90s and the early part of the century, it has been a dream for an Indian to essentially go into the IT scenario, work in a larger company here in India, and then move into United States of America. And once he reaches there, he feels that, okay, accomplished, that sort of a thing. Okay. In your case also that has happened, but then you did not stop at that. You really went on adding a lot of value. You went on doing a lot of activities and creating your own ecosystem. How did all this come about? Will you be able to give me a little background of the whole story, Pradeep, please, for the benefit of our audience?
Sure. Thanks, Asara. And I heard a lot of things about me that I had never thought about, but thank you.
Yes.
So I started, as a software developer right after my engineering. I did my computer science in the Engineering College, the second batch, first out in 89.
Yes.
And then did a little bit, of minor jobs, some teaching, all of that. Then I was in the Middle East for like 2 years.
Okay.
In Bahrain.
Yes.
Then came back and then joined CalSoft with Sam and grew up with it. I mean, moved to US in 1995.
Okay.
As the PO of CalSoft. And
Yes.
I was there till 2001.
Yes.
Um, and due to some personal reasons, I moved out to Southern California and then was away from the company. So decided to be on my own, and then have been an entrepreneur ever since.
Okay.
I've been involved with them, and obviously, I cannot really work for anybody, even if I work.
Okay. Yeah.
I kind of borrow it from Dan. I mean, anytime you're likely to be fired, then you start something on your own. So, so anyway, I cannot really work for anybody. I work only for myself, even
Yes.
when I employ something. What that means is that not in a negative sense, but I take full responsibility for what I'm doing,
Yes.
and wants the full freedom to get it done for the larger good of the organization. So whether I work for somebody, or whether I work for somebody or started something, I mean, that has been a driving principle. So I started on my own. So that was in 2001, and then almost 20 years now. I've been involved with a number of companies. I mean, a lot of very good successes. Some of them, did okay, and then a couple of them large failures also. So I've been all over the place, as you would expect. Anyway, the latest, talk about timing. The latest one, Loyal, you just talked about when I was a co-founder. We sold that on February 28th. Speaking of timing.
Yeah. And soon after starts, COVID-19.
That's right. After that, something, and I reached here on 29, so it's 2 months now. And then I saw what's going to happen. Kind of saw it coming, so decided to stay put here.
But you must be itching to go now, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're not used to it.
My friends, make fun of me that you should be getting vertigo by morning.
Since you're not moving, vertigo is something that you could actually catch.
I mean, there's a lot of remote teams, virtual teams, for a long time actually.
Yeah.
Even from the CalSoft days, I mean, we were among the initial wave of offshore companies, so we very used to that model. But even Loyal, so pretty successful organization, and we were 90% remote. Almost everybody, even across the whole of US. So, and I've been in that mode for quite long. So there's not much of a difference in terms of the work that I'm doing. Whether it's in lockdown or most of it gets done.
Yes.
And I've been used to it for a long time. But
because I think you are the one some 20 years back decided about an anti-lockdown plan sort of a thing. Whether lockdown or not, you can work wherever you are. Is that
that's
so?
Right. That's right. But you still want to travel and want to be with your customer periodically. There's nothing like being in front of a customer. I mean, not just literally. I mean, I love going out to the customer sites where actual users work. Just observe them. Be with them. Nothing like that. No other learning like that. Aspirational. And then
Absolutely.
The second big aspect of being where actually no big deal ever happens without two people being physically in the room.
Yep.
A lot of it happens actually after the fact, but you need to be very well in proximity to the person or the people who are involved in deals for it to happen at some point later. But you need to be spending time with your partner, right?
Yes.
So that is the other. And in my experience, I've done no big sale has ever happened without you physically spending time with the prospect and with the customer.
Pradeep, how many companies? Two things that which actually stands out as far as you is concerned is one is the ecosystem that you built around yourself. You said, you very clearly said that I didn't want to work for anyone. After having worked for somebody for some time, then you decided that you would like to be on your own and you would like to guide your own fortunes and things like that. So, but then one can't have everything done, particularly when you're traveling around that side and this side, etc. So you really built up an ecosystem around you. That is wonderful. That is one. And second thing that I had always looked at, and I was always so envious of you doing it, is the level of planning and the level of activities that you plan and see that it is executed to the OT. Okay, these two things. Now, with that, two things going for you. So in the last decade that if I look at, how many companies have you actually raised up and sold so far in the US? Just to, if you would like to comment upon.
So yeah, let me count. So I've been involved with 9 companies so far.
Oh, great! Yes. Okay.
Yeah, in some form or the other. A couple of them, I have gone in as acting CEO, CEO,
right,
when they needed help. Some obviously as co-founder, investor. But where I bring most value is my biggest strength. Technology, obviously, and
absolutely, yes,
all that. But keeping that apart, my biggest strength in terms of management is the ability to move up and down the chain. Being hands-on and be strategic at the next moment, and then keep that continuum.
But Pradeep, I had seen many people. I've seen many entrepreneurs, particularly as they get their age coming in and things like that. One, your self-esteem sort of becoming a little ego. You would like to go and sit in a chair at that corner office and things like that, and slowly you start disconnecting with the reality that is in front of you. I've seen many of them. But then when you say that your ability to move up and down the value chain of your organization, isn't it a very tiring process? And if you've been doing it ever with 10 companies that you'd actually turned it around and sold, and if you really look at it, isn't it a very tiring down process?
It is not. I mean, in the sense that it is, it can be, operational roles are not easy at all, right?
Yes,
because you need to, maybe you have to be awake in the night, if there is a big issue. So, but if you are careful about it, and then you already mentioned how it works. I mean, the ecosystem, even the teams that that has worked with me, all have stayed on. So at different levels, you have people that you can depend on, but the way to give them confidence, to give them support, is your ability to go in and do it for them, solve issues for them. But you don't stay on that for long, and not let them do their work. At the same time, if you feel that they need help, then and then you have confidence in the team, and the team has confidence in you, and that you're doing it for the right reasons, not to not interfere in what they're doing. And so once you have done that for quite a bit of time with the consistent team, then it works well. So
Pradeep, so you have actually having sold Loyal in February 2020, and then so what is in the annual next? What is the next one in the card?
So I have obviously have a transition with the buyers of Loyal, but that doesn't prevent me from doing other things. I'd say explicit agreement with them. So I'm working on a couple of possibilities now. Utilizing my strength. So over the last couple of years, focus has been on healthcare, obviously, and then payments, technology, and SaaS products has been my strength. For the last many years, even from the cashless days. And then a lot of personal interest in AI, ML, not at a superficial level, but we have done a lot of that.
Gone deep down. You have gone deep down into AI and ML actually. So how does AI and ML really help in this payment process and healthcare payment solution process? Pradeep?
It does everywhere. I mean, if you are, well, so obviously the problem has been that over-promising and under-delivering. Right. As a whole, but that is changing now. There are a lot of practical applications. And then, so combining, these areas. I mean, the next, I'm obviously working on a couple of ideas as the next
course of action. Incidentally, you also had invested in some of those software development companies. Okay. How are they doing and what's your plan about that? Or they are on their own? How is it like? Or you're using them for your developmental process?
Yeah, it's mostly, kind of helping them doing that has been, services has not been my focus for quite some time.
Okay.
And it'll be proved, it actually be more difficult for services companies going into, this year and next year for sure.
Okay.
If you look at the COVID-19 related trends. So firsthand, I have, I talked to pretty large customers. I mean, a couple of them in the Fortune 100, Fortune 50. So even all of them are seeing revenue drops in the 30 to 40% already.
Already, yes. Okay.
Already. I mean, in some segments like healthcare, which most of them expected to pick back up in late Q3, early Q4, because there's only so much you can differ in healthcare, right? So, but still, that's one factor, and everybody is reading a lot of news. So I don't have to repeat everything, but 1 in 6 of the U.S. workers are affected.
1 in 6 of US workers are affected. Already, yes.
Lost their jobs, or or in a furlough, or something like that. You can see already. Yesterday the report came out. The economy, shrank by 4.5%. This quarter. So, and then you can see the moves on immigration. It's an election year.
Yes, right? It is.
So you can already see the moves on immigration. You need you need somebody to speak.
Yeah, that's it. Somebody to be blamed for that. Okay.
So the movement of professionals, the visas, all that services companies out of India were serving.
Yes.
I mean, I'm talking about the US market because the US
market
by far is the most significant.
Yes.
For Indian services companies. Right.
So Pradeep, that means lots of Indian software and IT companies will have the impact of what's happening in the US immediately down the line. Isn't it?
It is actually. This quarter you may not see much. I mean, it's still kind of, people are kind of waking up, and actually, there was some kind of a phase of a month and a half, two, where people were kind of taking it as it comes, but now everybody's doing the rebudgeting and planning and all that. I can see that with my customers, and then making decisions for the rest of the year. Not doing projects, but not going forward with projects. Our biggest customer froze, in Loyal froze, all the discretionary projects, in March.
Yes.
So it doesn't affect us in terms of revenue.
Okay.
Because we were not dependent on that, really, but I can see the real impact of that. So that is coming this quarter. Next quarter you can see
this happening.
Yeah.
Now my question is, since you're a person who is seeing the market very closely in terms of both customers, ecosystem, people, development, IT companies, etc., and that too, you travel out to California state. That's where the Silicon Valley and the technology headquarters of many of the companies. As you really look at around, COVID, of course, also the impact of COVID had been extremely bad on the people of USFA. As it was in other countries, but in terms of numbers, we see large numbers of people affected and large numbers of people who are dead and large numbers of people who are worried. So that also I see. So now with these developments that is in the anvil, do you feel that the America being the leading business nation, will it continue, or are there changes? And I believe I'm also speaking with reference to even including the president of America. They want the companies to be open, offices to be open, and people to start working, etc. So there is a real clash of interest between life and livelihood. There, I'm seeing that happening. So what is your take on this? Will America go down, or will America eventually bounce back? What do you feel?
I think it will bounce back. It will bounce back faster than most other economies.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
That's first-hand feel of it. That's what it has done. Nobody has seen. None of us has seen something of this global impact. In our lives, and maybe the earlier generation in World War II probably is the closest was seen anything this global in nature.
Okay.
There have been local, even more serious impact for local economies and local countries, specific countries, but nobody has seen this, something of this.
It's a global, completely global, entire global. Yes.
Even 9/11, September 11, had its impact, but it was, but this not. I mean, the local economies were not really affected, right? So,
Indeed.
So you cannot really predict. I mean, everybody can make a prediction, like the astrologers do.
Yeah, but I have a question. I'm sorry for prying it into it a little deeper, because you said America will bounce back and America will bounce back as fast as possible. So what is that logic behind your thinking in saying this?
Sure. The government has, put lockdowns in place, the government has everything, but, still the whole of America, believes in, in free enterprise.
Yes.
A lot of, that's the whole, that's how most of the things work, and then less government, right? I mean, so government can only, do so much, and then, cannot, I mean, people don't expect government to do too much also, right?
Yes.
And if you really look at the compared to what has been done here in India and compared to what has been done in the US, that's also not sufficient. But here the focus has been rightly on helping the privilege, distributing the basic minimum aid, all that. I mean, the real help for business has not come. But if you really look at the money that the US is spending, the first $3 trillion, and then the rest of the money is completely focused on the next phase, which is to help businesses get off the ground or survive, and then help the economy.
I understand, but then there is always a big if on this, because if you really look at it, 1918, the Spanish flu, one wave came, and the second wave is the maximum number of people got killed in the second wave. And when I was going through some of those models, the disease models which has been created by epidemiologists and the statisticians and the economists put together, there's a huge doubt or there's a huge concern about this again going up in a large volume during the winter time, beginning October, November, then ending up with March, etc. So will America have the capacity to withstand another big, huge onslaught onto the current challenges that it is facing?
And a lot of people expect this to be more W-like curves, right? I mean, not ups and downs, but it's going to be well. If you really look at the numbers itself, right? I mean, influenza, the regular flu kills about 225,000 people every year in the US.
In the US, okay,
right?
Yeah.
They have to, a lot of people get vaccinated, every year, obviously. But still, it kills, about 225,000. The impact of this one is that it is very quick, right? Yes. And then, it is more impactful in the short term.
Yeah.
But, there could be a couple more waves because, we are not the experts in how
yes, it is. But we only see this and get scared with us, actually, yes.
But I think, the life will go on, and then the life has a much better chance of going on without too many interferences in the US than here. So the businesses are likely to pick up, and then.
So how do we actually manage that, or what's your suggestion to the Indian IT companies to tide over the situation that they're going to face in the next quarter?
The fundamentals doesn't change, right? I mean, successful businesses has to create value.
Yeah.
And then obviously there are a lot of other factors which make it a big success or not, but the fundamentals doesn't change. So still continue to focus on the fundamentals, right? And then if possible, focus on some of the things that are likely to be the most important areas, right? I mean, I can give some examples. For example, our biggest healthcare customer. We are about to. We are in all the facilities, and then was about to go live with a new module in April.
Yes.
Everything was ready, tested, and then they put all the projects on hold.
Yeah.
And then so we were not expecting anything to come through till October.
Right.
The minimum.
Yes.
Then last Friday, I got a call from from the CEO. You know, so we have decided there is a mandate to make all payments, all financial interactions in the system.
Okay. Yeah.
That's it. Without a person having to interact with anybody. The only people who should be interacting with the patient should be the clinicians.
Yes.
So how do we do that, right? So this kickstarted our project, put it back. So we are going live in July. So
and with the level of AI and automation built into it, right?
The digital payments, touchless payments, as an example, the kind of things that will be more important in this new world, right? Telehealth, a lot of demand for telehealth. Personally, I am setting up something for my wife.
Yes.
I couldn't find any local good solution. There are players, but nothing that is that.
I mean, these are all the opportunities available in front of you as well as
Then remote work, nobody has to talk about it. It has been there, but how to make it productive, how to manage it better, solutions related to that, distance learning, that what they're doing, and obviously, then online media and entertainment. Everybody knows. I mean, one of the few companies that has benefited is Netflix. Then the new supply chain,
absolutely,
the next generation, absolutely, more local.
Yeah.
Even in our Thai group, I have subscribed to all the things that has come there. The mangoes, all of that. I mean,
yes, it is. Yes, it is. The new delivery is happening. Yes.
Very good. Yeah. So the new supply chain, which is more local, more touchless, all of that. I just read that Amazon is in a major way booking freight trains with Indian Railways. They're going to move most of the supply. It's most of their cargo in rail.
Yeah.
Forward. So that and examples of the changes in supply chain, even in the local economy. Then,
you mean to say these are all going to be good opportunity for the local Indian companies as
well? That is right. That is right. Yeah, and ANML, I mean, some of the reports and some of the sometimes when you look at even the presentation by an ICMR or the ministries, or even you be crying, right? With all this technology, you are not using AI, ML for epidemiology, population health. None of the technologies that are already very much usable, and people have done it already, not being used at all. And you have to still depend on Excel sheets, and still it's all over the place, right? I mean, so things like that, robotics, obviously everybody's doing something. I don't know how practical and business.
But my worry, Pradeep, here is the requirement of programmers and coders are coming down, and the requirement of people in those higher end of the value chain, like ML, machine learning, natural language processing, etc., or AI, data analytics, etc., is going up. So that is one side of it. Now with this, with the global, the pandemic leading to the global requirement, at least for the next 1 quarter, 2 quarters, it's going to go down. Can that not produce? Because India, IT has been a savior for Indian youth, particularly the Indian middle class and the Indian youth for the last 20 years, 25 years. So will that get impacted is a question. If the middle class get impacted in the country, this is going to really affect the country, India, if you really look at it. So my worry, and I'm trying to take some cues from you, is that will that happen, or will we be able to surmount? Is a question that I'm trying to ask.
We will survive. I mean, it will be surmountable, but I think there will be a gap. I mean, there will be a generation will be affected in some way.
Okay.
So, I mean, short term, for example, I mean, you can already see. I mean, despite there could be people are waiting for this phase to be over. There is a government order not to reduce workforce and not to pay, but companies have to do it.
Yes.
Some point in time here. And people are not going to recruit. Even Google announced that they are not doing any campus recruitments this year. So there is going to be an impact in terms of opportunities for.
So the challenges for the next maybe about 5-6 months to 1 year will definitely be there. That's what you're also saying, right?
That's right.
But it is surmountable, and we shall overcome, provided we are achieving. Yeah, with as you said, if we are going to still going at the Excel sheets and the PPTs, as we are doing it now, planning. That is not going to help the cause in any which way.
Right.
I mean, our thinkers and planners and executionists have to be much more tech savvy and much more into things like AI, ML, etc. Isn't it?
Yeah, not from a show perspective, but actually from a practical, because you're not going to survive this by lockdowns only, right? You need to really monitor what's going on, and for example, I was just reading one of those Canadian startups, which is focusing on. I mean, they predicted, and just in December itself, looking at just reading the news reports, they had predicted in a pandemic, back sometime early December.
So actually, we should really make that as a WHO headquarters now.
That's right.
No, WHO waited till March 13th to declare it as a pandemic, isn't it?
That's right.
So that is a technology. That's a technology marvel. That's AI, and
that's right.
I think in our day-to-day life, organizations of the nature like IMF or WHO or ICMRs and governments of the world, if they are not applying these technologies into better predictions and better forecasting, etc., we may be left behind. That's what you're also trying to communicate. Okay.
And then I see it as an opportunity for the local, companies. Also, everywhere in the world. I mean, whatever you do here, I mean, US also needs help. Everybody needs help, right? So,
yes.
So government is going to be a big spender, whether you like it or not, for the next,
next
this
1 or 2
year.
years.
They have to. Big spender, yeah.
They have to. Yeah. So we are in the last question of the, 30 minutes just went away like that when we are conversing, and that too when we are doing freewheeling, it just goes on like that, we wish that, okay, we would have more time to actually spend. So therefore I come to my last question. So we have limited this conversation to an half an hour slot sort of a thing so that it can have a better viewability. Otherwise, if it goes long, the number of people who watches this actually may come down. That's why we have limited it to this time. So what is your advice to Indian startups and Indian youth who are actually into entrepreneurship, and also Indian early venture companies that are slowly coming up in this nation? So what is your advice?
Yeah, I just go back to the earlier statement. I mean, all that matter. So I mean, I think in terms of impactful, I mean, I can talk about the areas that I am familiar with, more convincingly than other things. So I might be focusing a little bit more on that.
Right.
But so essentially products, value-adding products, with where the fundamentals are right,
yes.
Is going to be a winner.
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
With the new delivery models, SaaS is not new, but I'm saying that people are comfortable with that model, and obviously, that is the way to go. Services on standalone generic services, it's very tough. Generic services, I mean, if it's product based, value adding services, yes, but for a startup. And then my experience again is mostly a lot of it's on B2B. B2B is a more predictable, manageable game with less need for cash.
Yeah.
Than a pure B2C play. The chance, a big win is much higher than B2C, but
yes.
B2C, the other way also, right? I mean,
I follow. Yeah.
So that I was just focusing on my experience.
Yeah.
Economy will grow back. I mean, if it's contracts a little bit, it will, it has to come back. So I think if you're doing the right things and building the right things and has some staying power, then things.
Then that's where the future is. Yeah. So you're saying that this too will pass, and we have to essentially look at the value that we add and see that, okay, that is done correctly, and the business basics do not change. Go by that. Okay. Pradeep, in fact, last 30 minutes or so, in comparison with some of those interviews that I had been doing, which was mostly concentrating on the business domains, etc., here we have really tried to look at the international global scenario as well as what's happening to us. Okay. So it is a wonderful learning for me as well. I mean, generally sitting and getting all this thing, and I always consider this as a lifelong learning. You learn all through your living, Thank you very much. I hope things would subside smoothly for you to start your traveling all over again, and we can come to learn from you for new experiences and new endeavors and all this. Here is wishing you very best, and we will sign off with the typical Indian, now the Indian new normal, that is a namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to the team also.
Bye. Yeah.